Hey guys, it's Sarah, and today I wanted to talk to you about the city of Atlantis, why we need to talk about it now, and just a little bit about my story around the past 2 weeks of all the synchronicities I've received with it, because it's happening to a lot of people right now. It's all coming up right now because of the full moon in Leo on Saturday, Sunday, the 8th, 9th, because we're essentially releasing all of this trauma and fear that's been holding us back since the time of Atlantis. Just before I get into even more detail about Atlantis, just for those who don't know what it is, I'm going to give you a brief little explanation from my understanding. So, Atlantis was a highly evolved spiritual civilization that was existing within the fifth dimension on Earth. See, Atlantis existed in the Atlantic Ocean, and at the same time, there was another continent named Lemuria that existed in the Pacific Ocean. Lemuria was the divine feminine aspect, whereas Atlantis was the divine masculine aspect. Both of these two continents were very tied together. A lot of what happened on each continent impacted the other ones because at that time we were living a fifth dimensional life, so there was this greater understanding that it's all one. Like, there's not actually these separate places, it's just on this one planet. So Atlantis and Lemuria were highly sought after in the galaxy and in the universe because Earth was so beautiful and pristine and full of so many different landscapes and just nature, and everything was so beautiful that so many people wanted to experience a lifetime on this planet. So a lot of the people who came to Atlantis, who came to Lemuria, the first settlers were actually from the stars. A lot of starseeds had their first incarnations during Atlantis and Lemuria. These civilizations were very highly advanced technologically, spiritually. We remembered our divine essence. We remembered that we were all one. We understood that every one of us was working on a collective level. It was a fifth vibrational life. It was a fifth dimensional state of being. There is not separation. There is not violence to begin with. It was a very pristine and beautiful way of living. We were also joined by a whole bunch of different higher dimensional beings, including dolphins, elven ones, and ascended horses, which are unicorns. There is dragons. There are so many cool different higher vibrational creatures that were existing simultaneously during the times of Atlantis and Lemuria. So everything was really good for a long time. Like, this civilization thrived. Like, it was highly sought after. Everybody kind of knew about Atlantis and Lemuria and Earth because it was so beautiful and coherent and high vibrational. But eventually, there's different sections of Atlantis. Like, the life of Atlantis, that whole civilization could be, I guess, categorized into three. So the beginning, the golden age, and then the fall. What I'm talking more about this video is the fall, because that's what's very prominent for us right now and what we need to be thinking about and healing right now. So there's a lot of different, I guess, belief systems around how Atlantis fell. A lot of people might have read different things, gone into the Akash, had all of this different information about Atlantis come through. I'm not going to share my personal beliefs or what I've seen, what I've felt, because I want you to remember from your own perspective, because I believe if you are watching this video right now, you're an incarnate from Atlantis or Lemuria, and I want you to be able to access your memories from your own inner guidance system without me telling you why it fell. But the long story short, because we do need to discuss, like, right at the end for the point of this video, we for the longest time used our power for good, for divine healing, for oneness, but then we started to abuse this power, specifically more so in Atlantis with technology and the things that we would do, and there was kind of a more like a dark force, like a dark brotherhood that kind of took over and made a lot of people turn more dark or a bit lower vibrational, using their power for greed and for not the highest vibrational things. I'll just leave it at that. And so because of that, because of the karma that was built up from taking those actions and using our divine abilities for darkness, we had to pay the karma. So the karma for that type of thing was that the civilizations just, they can't survive anymore. They can't continue because of what we did, and it wasn't right for them to continue on given the destruction that had already taken place. However, at the time of Atlantis and Lemuria, our lifetimes were so much longer than they are now. So we knew for hundreds, thousands of years potentially that the islands, the continents were going to sink into the ocean. We knew that there was going to be this great grand destruction. A lot of people did do some work to try to stop this from happening. That's where pyramid technology came in. I'll make a whole other video about that at a later date. And if you're interested in that, just let me know in the comments. But it didn't work because we already had built up that karma from the things that we decided to do and the way that we decided to utilize our power. So it was already set in stone that this was going to happen. There's a lot of different tribes from Atlantis and Lemuria who then encoded crystal skulls, which are like computers, but just like crystal and like way, way, way higher advanced technology than we have access to right now on Earth. But they encoded all the information and knowledge, divine healing abilities, telepathy, like all this really strong information, the history. They encoded them in these crystal skulls as well as different crystals. So that might be different crystals like Lemurian quartz, for example. And then towards the fall, we had two options. Everybody had the option. We could either stay but remain in a higher vibrational area, so we wouldn't necessarily go down to the 3D, or you would go down to the 3D in order to spread the knowledge. And then the second option was to perish in the fall and then incarnate later on to rewrite the story essentially, with the hope and I guess the knowingness that we wouldn't choose that way again. So a lot of the people who decided to stay were going in different tribes. So a lot of them went to different parts of the world to seed this knowledge so that it would eventually come out. I believe the first crystal skull has been found, and it was found in Brazil. So there's a lot of Southern American tribes that came from either Atlantis or Lemuria to seed this knowledge, to spread early civilizations that you might have learned about in like ancient history classes in high school. So a lot of those people came from Atlantis or Lemuria, just as like a little time frame for you. But there was a lot of us who decided to perish. Different reasons for choosing that, but a lot of us decided to do that, and I'm kind of having chills when I say this because I know that I chose to perish during the fall. The fall was categorized with a lot of destruction naturally, so a lot of earthquakes and tsunamis type of thing. And a lot of us who did choose to perish in the fall or remember the fall have these horrible, like deep-seated fears of natural disasters. I know for myself, my whole life I've been afraid of natural disasters, and it wasn't until I learned about Atlantis that I understood why. And then we sometimes will have these dreams overnight of tsunamis. Like I know a lot of people who chose to perish in the fall have constant dreams of these tsunamis, these huge waves coming in. And basically this was to help remind us, and basically a lot of us who chose to perish in the fall remember this disaster and have this huge catastrophe wound so that we don't do it again. Because you see, as a collective, a lot of us now, especially those in North America, New Zealand, Australia, but it's not just limited to that, are incarnates of Lemuria and Atlantis. And we're here now to choose, are we going to go down that path, or are we going to go back up into the golden age? And I believe that we've already decided that. I know some people will say, well, it's not the future yet, like we haven't decided that path, but no, like I truly believe in like this greater divine plan that we had to go through that polarity to then experience this next polarity. Like that was karma, but now we're reaching good karma because we're switching it up. But my main point of why I was giving this little story about Atlantis okay, so I gave you this little story about what happened in Atlantis. Now I'm going to go into my mini story about this so that I can get on to the greater aspect of why it's relevant right now. So I received about a week and a half ago this Starberry quartz in the mail. And this is a crystal that's encoded with a lot of galactic information from the stars. A lot of them were seated in Brazil, and it contains a lot of information about Atlantis. And right after I got this crystal, about 2 hours later, the crystal told me to book a flight to Vancouver Island. And I have family out there, and I was already wanting to go, so I was just like, okay, I'll do it. I figure if the crystal's guiding me, then like, I have to. So I decided to book a flight, and then I felt really off after that for the rest of the night, and I couldn't figure out why. And then I slept with this beside my pillow at night, kind of knowing that I would receive some like weird downloads in my sleep, but I was like, I'm ready for it. And then I ended up having this dream where I was at this like party type of thing. It wasn't like a like teenage type of party. It was just like a like people from my lifetime, like my parents and grandparents were there type of party. And I remember I was trying to leave this party, and there's on the door, like the door just had like a little circle. And so I was going ready to leave, and then this one guy was like, the dam has broke, the water's coming in. And I just like see out of the circle, I just see this huge like tidal wave coming in, and I'm just like, and I like run to the furthest like highest part of the house, and I start going like, I'm safe, I'm safe, I'm safe. I call an Archangel Michael in my dream and being like, please protect us, I'm safe, I'm safe. And then I told everybody in this house, because there was at least 40 to 50 people in this house, and I was like, everybody say you are safe, I am safe, I am safe, I am safe, and believe and visualize that the wave does not hit. After doing that, the wave didn't end up hitting the house, we all survived. And I woke up the next morning terrified to go on this trip. I was like, oh no, like this is gonna happen, like I'm so afraid. But then I woke up, I posted on my story that like I had these dreams, and then like 4 or 5 other people said that at the same night they were having dreams about Atlantis too, as well as I saw a post saying that we were healing timelines from Atlantis. So my little story about that, my story about Atlantis, it's all leading to what I'm saying right now. Is over the past week and a half and through until this full moon, I believe that we are collectively healing the trauma of Atlantis so we can fully move on into this better and brighter path. You see, this was such a big traumatic wound to us that it's stored in our very DNA. This trauma wound is stored in our DNA, and a lot of these wounds and trauma is causing us to not be able to want to stand fully in our power or share our wisdom, because we have this fear in the back of our minds. What if somebody uses the information that I'm going to share for darkness like they did in the past? If you were a priestess or a priest back in Atlantis for the light, you might have shared information that was then given out to somebody who led to the destruction. And so you might have this like deep like fear where you're like, oh my gosh, like I don't think I can share this right now, and it's because of this. But the best part of this is we're healing this right now. I believe that my dream where everybody was safe from this wave was a symbolization that the collective has fully chosen and fully solidified the timeline in this earth now that we don't go down this destruction. I believe that as we're merging these timelines, as we're clearing these past traumatic timelines, we are bringing Atlantis now and choosing differently. Because if you've watched my video about past parallel lives, I think I have 2 videos on that because I love this topic. I talk a lot about how past lives don't actually exist because everything's now, therefore there are parallel lives existing on timelines at the exact same time. Because we're all multidimensional beings, so we can all be on different dimensions, different timelines at one time. Therefore, the fall of Atlantis is happening right now on another timeline. However, we're merging that timeline into this Earth Now timeline as we're going into the 5th dimension. This is like one of the biggest things that has to be done in order to fully ascend as a planet and all the beings, is that all the timelines kind of have to merge together into one optimal highest timeline. Right now, we're taking this timeline of Atlantis, all this destruction, and we're releasing the fear. That's why we might be having these dreams right now, these fears coming up. We're releasing these fears from our very DNA, from ourselves, so that we don't have to repeat it again and we can step into the light. And that's one of the most profound things about this full moon in Leo coming up on the 8th and 9th, depending where you live, is it's this chance to release all fear and all trauma holding you back. So I think that as a collective, we're healing and releasing the Atlantean catastrophe wound during this full moon, which is so powerful and so profound. Like, to not like the Atlantis wound is what's holding us back as a society, as a collective, from reaching our highest timeline, because we all have that fear in us. We all have this like lower connection to these like matrixy 3D realms from our times in Atlantis, and once we're merging these and healing them completely, that won't exist anymore. We've healed that timeline. We've healed this life that's bringing us back into the now, into this now earth where we choose to use our power for the greatest good and highest good of all. So we're going through this great grand DNA healing of our Atlantean wound right now, which is profound. Like, it's so profound. It's like, I'm so thankful and grateful to be alive during this time to experience this healing and to be aware of it. And that's why I wanted to share it with all of you guys, because this healing is just, it's so powerful, because it's going to impact us on a collective level as we're now ascending into a golden age once more. So allow these feelings to move through your body. They don't have to be stuck anymore, and you do not have to be identified. Some of us may have had lifetimes in Atlantis, and likely did have lifetimes in Atlantis, where we kind of serve the dark, and we have to own it. We have to own that, sometimes we've made mistakes in our parallel lives because we had to learn and experience something so that we don't do it again, right? If we didn't experience it then, we might want to experience it now for the total experience of all. So allow yourself to feel these emotions, and don't put any guilt or shame onto anything that you might have done during this time. Forgive yourself and forgive everybody who is involved, because after this full moon, we will not be held back by this Atlantean wound anymore. The Atlantean catastrophe wound, this timeline will be completely merged into this new golden earth timeline, and that is so beautiful. So I really hope you learned a lot of information about Atlantis, healing, and what we're doing right now, why it's relevant right now. If you have any more questions about Atlantis or any video suggestions, please feel free to leave a comment below or connect with me on Instagram at starseedsloan. Have a great day. Peace.